Illinois campaign finance has a stack of things you got to follow, and if you're going to run for office, you've got to follow campaign finance law in the state of Illinois. But the leading Democrat in the Illinois Senate faces a potential $10 million fine for allegations he violated campaign finance. It is Illinois in Focus. I'm Greg Bishop. Each and every weekday morning, you can wake up with us and join the live chat and sound off there. As we at thecentersquare.com bring you some of the latest headlines. And you've got election 2026 right around the corner, right? The primaries March 17th, and then you've got the general election in November. But while we're going into election season, previous elections, people were raising red flags about campaign finance with Senate President Don Harmon. I connected with Ryan Morrison from the Liberty Justice Center yesterday to talk about this case because the Illinois State Board of Elections hasn't heard the complaint against Senate President Don Harmon on how the allegation is he violated campaign finance, the self-finance rules of campaign finance law in the state of Illinois, and he faces a potential $10 million fine because of those alleged violations. Here is Ryan Morrison from the Liberty Justice Center, just giving a brief overview.
Well, unfortunately for Senator Harmon, he has run headlong into a complicated system of campaign finance law in Illinois. He is looking at about a $10 million fine for accepting contributions over the contribution limit for his campaign, for his reelect.
So getting a little bit more into the weeds here, Ryan says that this comes down to Harmon kind of skirting the self-finance rules that lifted the caps of how much they can then take in. Because unless you self-finance beyond a certain point, you're kept at a certain threshold of individual campaign contributions. But if you self-finance and blast through that cap, and from my understanding, I'm not an attorney, and I have not read all of the election code when it comes to campaign finance, but from my understanding, if you blast that cap, then you can start accepting donations higher than what the cap was. We've seen this happen with, for instance, Governor J.B. Pritzker. Obviously, he's spent like $250 million, if not more, or something wild like that on his campaign since he started running in 2018 and getting the office in 2019. But some more detail from Ryan about this particular issue and the self-funding conflict that Harmon's accused of doing and facing a $10 million fine over.
But there's a provision up there, me not being that familiar with Illinois' campaign finance law, that allows you to exceed the limits if you do it through self-funding. And that's what he tried to do. He gave himself a large amount of money, and that in order to allow him to exceed the limits, but it would also let his competitors do that as well. Unfortunately, that only lasted through the primary election cycle. And it really comes down to the way the election cycles are defined in Illinois. It runs from January 1st through the primary election. And if he won the primary election, it would continue on through the general election. However, this was the primary election in 2024, which he did not participate in. Because his election is not until 2026. And so it cut off his ability to get excessive campaign contributions, but he kept donating it to himself, not realizing that the law says the primary election, not his primary election. And now he's complaining that, well, that's not the intent of the law. That's not the way the law was meant to be. And he could very well be right about that. However, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and unfortunately for Senator Harmon, he's arrived at that destination with the $10 million fine.
And that's a lot of money. $10 million is... It'll come, out of his campaign funds, but regardless, that's $10 million. It's been reported that Harmon and his team, they say that the board's narrow interpretation, it unfairly hampers his ability to politic, and it ignores what they say was the legislative intent of the campaign finance law. But Ryan Morrison with the Liberty Justice Center, he says when the finality of this happens and the final ruling is made, what's going to happen here ultimately? When are we going to know about this and get some clarity on the law and how it should be implemented and followed?
Well, I don't really know. There wasn't really an announced decision after they met last week. Our client, Mr. Nick Benatti, of course, as you probably know, he is very much a campaign finance watchdog in Illinois. And we're just waiting to see whether or not they're going to allow us to intervene so he can be a party and what the decision of the board is going to be. You see, much like the federal version, there is a bipartisan representation on the board. And they can, in an 8-member committee, a 4-4 tie is very possible. And if there is a tie, then the complaint is dismissed. However, if Mr. Benatti is allowed to be a party, he can appeal that to an Illinois Court of Appeals and then get a ruling from them about whether or not the law applies to Senator Harmon and whether or not he has to pay.
So you're a taxpayer, you're a voter. You obviously, as I can tell from the live chat, a lot of you worried about the cost of living, energy prices in the state of Illinois, gas prices in the state of Illinois, high property taxes in the state of Illinois, these kitchen table issues that you hear about, right? But what about campaign finance law? Do voters care about that? Is this on people's radar? Can they delve deep and sink their teeth into this issue about blasting through campaign finance caps by self-funding and then opening it up? Is this something that voters care about? Ryan, answering that question.
Well, that's interesting. I'm a native Kentuckian, and my great senior Senator Mitch McConnell usually says the electorate cares about campaign finance law about as much as they care about static cling. And I believe they're right. These laws exist to deter quid pro quo corruption or the appearance thereof, but most modern research shows that the public believes the government is corrupt no matter if these laws exist or not. I mean, if we have strict campaign finance laws, the public thinks the government's corrupt. If we don't have strict campaign finance laws, the public thinks the government is corrupt. So I really don't know how much they care about a campaign finance violation or not. I mean, all they're going to hear is Senator Harmon violated the law, and of course that's not good for any politician to have that accusation made against them. But how much money these people take in, I don't know that the public cares that much. They just want good government and people to fulfill their promises.
Will we get that announcement of whatever the outcome is going to be before another election? And it's a great question. But Ryan says it really just comes down to politicians need to follow the laws that they put in place themselves.
No, other than it just shows that when you create complicated campaign finance laws, either at the federal or here in this case, the state level, you can get yourself into a whole lot of trouble if you don't dot your I's and cross your T's and pay really, really close attention to what the law says. Philosophically and personally, the Liberty Justice Center doesn't believe in campaign contribution limitations, and I don't either. But if you're going to have these rules, then you need to abide by them. And this would be a good case in point to say, hey, maybe we don't need all these complicated laws and we can have a little more freedom in our election speech.
Is that going to be the outcome of this, or is Harmon just going to pay the $10 million fine? Looking at Illinois Sunshine, which is a campaign finance transparency portal put together by a nonprofit group, skimming all the information from the Illinois State Board of Elections campaign websites. But you can see here, Friends of Don Harmon for state senate, $14.5 million funds available, $14.8 million cash on hand. So if he gets a $10 million fine, he'll still have $4 million that may help out there. So how is this going to play out? It's a great question, but it's a tough spot for Harmon, that Ryan Morrison from the Liberty Justice Center said.
The statute that allows you to go over the limit limits it to these election cycles, which are defined in Illinois law as January 1 after the general election to the primary. And then the day after the primary, if you win, till December 31st. And the self-funding thing, specifically says you have to win that primary, but Senator Harmon didn't participate in it because in the 2024 primary, because his is not for another 2 years. And, just going by the strict black letter law there, he messed up. And he could be right that that's not the way the law was meant to be, but that's the way they wrote it. And so the Board of Elections is just enforcing it the way it's written.
So what's going to happen next?
It's just tough for him.
We'll be watching. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. You can wake up with us each and every weekday morning here as those watching the live stream for some reason got kicked off. I'm not sure why, guys, but it happens. I don't know. It said I had an excellent connection. I guess we'll just see what to do about that. That's why we do the segments locally, so you can get these segments in whole. All right. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning here for more Illinois in Focus Daily.